Marques, all-time Saints leader in yards, touchdown, 2010 Super Bowl champion, co-founding partner of Campion Venture Partners, raised $100 million.
What I did for a living and the level that I did it at, it casts a pretty broad shadow. If that's all you want from me, you can go find somebody else because I bring a whole lot more than that. We see sports as an avenue to aggregate a bunch of different people, a bunch of diverse investors in an industry that you've invested in pretty much your entire life anyway. Yeah, I'm good on the brand ambassadorship at this point.
What should I not have in the pitch deck? What can we leave out?
That's a great question.
Fill in the blank here. If you're building blank, please reach out to me.
Man, these are good questions, dude.
Do you remember the first angel investment you made, which was like, according to my sources, over 14 years ago, which I don't want to date you, but that's a long time ago. Do you remember that first ever angel check?
I remember two. So one was in more of like a syndicate.
Okay.
It was into a company called Zeal. I think I should know. The other one, which was like a direct investment, was actually into an indoor football team in my hometown.
Okay. What happened to the indoor football league?
Man, that's an interesting business model. So the league that I was in, and there's a bunch of there's the arena football league that sat at the very top of the food chain, and then there was like a handful of other more regional leagues. I started in one of the more regional leagues, and it was a heck of a learning experience. I'll keep it positive and frame it that way.
Yeah. Hey, that's a nice way of putting that. Shit was a disaster. No, I'm kidding.
I had some disastrous moments, but it was a great learning experience. It was kind of my MBA on the fly. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and we'll jump into that because a lot of athletes gotta kind of get MBAs on the fly when they're exposed to different investing opportunities. Because we got Marques Colston on the Athletes and Asses podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack. I bring on your favorite athletes to chat about a business topic. Marques, all-time Saints leader in yards, touchdown, 2010 Super Bowl champion, is now co-founding partner of Campion Venture Partners, raised $100 million to invest in cash-flowing businesses in the sports space. And I like their investment model because it's a little different, and we'll break it down. It's a little different than the traditional stuff. But yeah, back to it. Marques, I had to get the intro for the people that didn't know. What were you always wanting to be an investor, or did you think you're going to be an entrepreneur first? I mean, there's kind of different mindsets, maybe jumbled into one. But did the separation playbook give you some insight on this future path of yours? Yeah,
so like I've always known that I've had an interest in business, and while I was playing, there wasn't a whole lot of time, and at that point, I'm dating myself now. You can tell by the grays in my beard.
It still looks good. No just for men needed.
No, it's gonna come in how it comes in, man. I earned them.
Yeah.
So, so as a player, like there really wasn't at that time too many opportunities to position yourself as a founder or an entrepreneur. So the easiest pathway to get into business was as an investor for me. And I've always been kind of that, what I guess now call a value add investor. I've never been passive, like here's my check and 7 years, hopefully have a bigger check for me. I've always been somebody, I want to invest in things that I'm curious about, want to invest in things that I want to learn more about, and figure out how can I contribute, roll my sleeves up and either make introductions, get into the business, get into the operations. So I was kind of learning as I was trying to make money at the same time. And that was kind of always my approach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mentioned your first angel investments. Was technology always something of interest to you, whether in sports or not in sports?
Yeah, I've always kind of been a tech nerd.
Okay.
I actually went to Hofstra as an electrical engineering major.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And then once I started playing as a freshman, that ship sailed pretty quickly because it was not enough. I couldn't figure out how to create a 30-hour day.
There's a laundry list of athletes that started out as an engineering major in college and then by the end of it finished in comm.
Dude, It's real, man. 2 full-time jobs is hard.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
not easy.
Yep. So yeah, I've always kind of been a tinkerer. I've always been curious about technology. That kid that had the remote control cars and take them apart and try to, swap out parts and, create little, new vehicles, that kind of deal. I've always been that kind of guy. So when I got the opportunity to start investing in technology companies, it just kind of felt like a hand in glove fit for me.
And you started, I think it was year 3 in your career. You started angel investing, but did you at that time? I feel like now we're kind of moving in an age in NFL and NBA where it's more acceptable to show what you're doing off the field and kind of have that like multifaceted portfolio personality, however you want to coin it. Were you pretty under wraps about what you were doing? And how many of your teammates knew you were pursuing electrical engineering on the Saints?
None knew the engineering piece.
Yeah.
I started out pretty quiet because I was doing it mostly in the off seasons. And as a young player, you're always afraid of looking like you're not focused.
That's it right there.
Yeah, but as I got more and more comfortable in my position on the team and on the roster, I started to realize like this thing is going to end sooner than any of us realize. So once I really dove in and started to kind of share in the locker room, the indoor football piece was really, I think, a really good connector for me because it was still football. And the coolest part was a lot of the front office at the Saints, they were around when the New Orleans Voodoo, the arena football team, was around. So they kind of were running that team. So, a lot of their away trips started to become, talking with the president, talking with the GM, and just kind of shooting the shit around arena football. So once we got to that point, it became like, all right, I can actually I don't need to hide any of this stuff. I can actually be who I am. I can do what I'm doing and, can start to have real conversations around it. And that was kind of a huge pivot for me.
But when you invested in the IFL, didn't you feel like there was no feeling like you're investing in something that's theoretically supposed to compete with the NFL? Which is like where you are?
I mean, that's one way. The way I thought about it was, can I create success stories from the IFL that make it to the NFL?
Okay.
Can it be kind of a feeder league where, if 1 or 2 guys get a tryout or get a shot, like is that a win or is that success? So once I started to look at it that way, it was never really competitive because it's 2 different styles of football. But the thing that really struck me early on was like it's literally the same business. It's the product on the field. It's the revenue that comes off the field, whether it be sponsorship, marketing, ticket sales. All of the business is the same. You just with the NFL, you add a few more zeros.
Yeah, I think now you're probably really hands-on on the investments or the deals that come across your plate. At Campion Venture Partners, where you were playing. Were you relying on your financial advisor or team, or were you really in the weeds evaluating, promising companies while you still had the pads on? Like, how did that work?
I've always been in the weeds. Okay. I've just never, and I think part of it is maybe my journey to get to the league. It was never a foregone conclusion that I was going to get there and I was going to have success. So I've always kind of been. I've got to create any and every bit of success that's going to happen for me. I've got to manually create it. So I kind of took that same approach into investing and, learned a ton along the way, some good, some not so good, but all great learning experiences.
Yeah. And because you're angel investing, I think you have an interesting approach to, my framework of active athletes, and investing in venture. Mentioning, I think you mentioned that, athletes have a 4 or 5 year lifespan in the NBA, maybe less in the NFL, but the returns you see in venture are for like a 7-10 year timeline, right? You invest and you don't see that money back for a long time. And for a lot of players, just to have a venture dominated portfolio, and when they're done playing, that full-time income is not coming in. So basically they're over-indexed to all their money that is a liquid, which is it's an interesting, like that's a great point you make I would push back and say, well, isn't it good for players to start investing in venture early? So, by the time they're done playing, they're closer to seeing potentially large scale liquid returns. Like how do you answer that?
I would say yes, with the caveat of as long as venture maintains, like as long as venture in your portfolio is one of the smaller allocations in your entire portfolio.
Yeah.
Like that's the caveat, because what tends to happen, and what I've seen a lot of, is venture is sexy, right? If you start talking about startups, you start talking about technology companies, somebody's going to pull the 1,000x return rabbit out the hat, and it's going to get everybody, kind of foaming at the mouth. And that all looks and sounds good until you realize like that's one out of maybe 100 companies that did that. Right. So as long as venture is a small allocation in your portfolio and you have the financial wherewithal to make those investments and have them be a small allocation in your portfolio, then start early. But if you're on a league minimum deal, if you're on a, venture is not where you need to be early. and it's simply because, again, like once that income cliff falls off, and it's going to fall off just because there aren't very many professions in the world in your 20s where you're going to make $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a year. So once that income cliff falls off, if you don't have the savings and you don't have the liquidity to supplement that while you figure out what the next step is, the last thing that you want to do is be cash poor and have all this unrealized value over here that you can't access for another 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So it's nuanced. It's a nuanced conversation.
Yeah. No giant growth stage funds on the rookie deal. Probably not the best idea.
No, I wouldn't advise it.
No, I wouldn't advise it. This is not financial advice, but wouldn't advise someone to start a fund to compete with, CVP while you're still playing and didn't get that second contract, and now you're over indexed. But what is the dumbest investment you've seen a teammate make in a startup that either they put way too much money in for what they were making, or the industry was just very questionable?
That's a great question. There were some investments. Here's one that I saw.
Yeah.
So there was a while where cannabis was really starting to dominate the conversation.
Yes.
So cannabis, if you know anything about cannabis, it's like you have this whole. There's the federal regulations and there's the federal law, and then each state is kind of coming online individually, right? So every state that comes online is still technically against federal law. So cannabis was a crazy hot conversation for a while, and then CBD came along. And what you started to see was these people that were just creating white label brands that they were positioning like they were, like fully vertically integrated companies. So they would go find, some manufacturer and slap their label on it and then go raise a ton of capital around it. Like they, was seed to sale, fully vertically integrated. So I saw a handful of guys kind of get caught in that trap, not realizing that they were just really investing in a retail brand, and they weren't investing in what they thought they were investing in this entire operation, this entire company.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things where it's time on task and it's reps to learn and figure out, what am I really invested in? There's the thing that they're selling me that the investment is,
yeah,
and there's the thing that the investment really is.
So they were like, if there was a company making weed gummies, and an athlete thought that, they were investing in this full-fledged company that maybe had other cannabis products, but essentially it was just one piece of the supply chain. Like, or is that accurate?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's basically just like they were investing in a brand and a label.
Okay.
And then what the founders would typically do is they will position the athlete like as the front person. So now you're the brand ambassador, you're the spokesperson,
right,
of the brand, and it's like, one, I can't really push and promote this because I'm gonna get in trouble. My day job is gonna have me in trouble. But two, like, I'm not really investing in anything but this marketing and this label.
So the moral of the story: don't invest in banned substances in the sport that you play.
That's a good start. It's a good start.
I mean, it's not. It's becoming more legalized, but a couple years ago, that was more so of the sentiment. Cannabis is interesting. Cannabis is an interesting industry because I think if cannabis becomes completely acceptable as recreational use in society, I think athletes probably play a huge part in that because of probably the health and like the health narrative.
110%. And that's a rabbit hole for another day. But I was actually involved in an international cannabis company.
Okay.
And that was really the main play. It was more medicinal than anything. We were trying to get some research backed studies around CBD and the different terpene profiles. And but if it does come online, I think there's going to be some fringe sports that really get in front of it. And then eventually I think the major sports have to get behind it, just because you have that juxtaposed against the opioid crisis, and you have a real conversation to have there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks for covering the cannabis part of this conversation that you intended to have. So Marques, I was talking to Joe Montana a couple of days ago, and when he started investing at the venture scale, he said he was very intentional about not becoming just sucked into the sports tech sector and wanted to be sort of generalist, where he wanted to be in everything from defense tech to AI, crypto, like everything.
But
you seem to have a strong passion and in intended plan to be dominant in the sports tech space. Was it always going to be sports tech for you, or were you looking to, or were you just, was there a point where you had a discussion, like what industry am I going to be the man in, or generalist?
So that's an interesting question, because my approach typically is a generalist approach.
Okay.
Just in most of the things that I do. But in this particular venture, it was sports simply because like we're really leading with access. Like that's if you break down our fund and you break down our company and our thesis, is really around access.
Yeah. And
for us, being a value added investor, sports is the place where we have the most influence.
Sure.
Sports is the place where we have the most experience, and sports is the place where we can tap our athlete colleagues on the shoulder and say, hey, you're investing in an industry that you're an expert in, right? You're investing in an industry that you can have a direct impact in. You're coming into businesses that you've not just seen the business models, you've been a cog in these business models. You've experienced these business models firsthand. And on the other side of the coin, sports is kind of that thing that unites everyone, right? So whether you're a player that has invested most of your life into becoming an elite athlete, or you're a parent that has kids that play youth sports, there's a level of investment that you have in the sports ecosystem that really hasn't paid you back. Right? So we see sports as an avenue to aggregate a bunch of different people, a bunch of diverse investors, and create access to a wealth creation vehicle in an industry that you've invested in pretty much your entire life anyways. Yeah, absolutely. And so we got Campion Venture Partners, $100 million into, that's a lot of money, Marques, by the way. That's a nice contract right there. That's that's not even the food chain these days. Was that the target for you? 100 million? Yeah, like it's a target. We want to get there, strategically get there. Our goal is really to make sure that we stay aligned, with our thesis, make sure that we service the people that we want to service and within the ecosystem on our way to 100. Okay. So that's the caveat. Like it's not 100 at all costs. Yeah. It's not, can we take the biggest checks from, the investment bankers? It's really about, again, it's about access. We want to have a diverse investor base. We want to get into companies that we know can grow over time. And we also want to get into companies that, as we build the portfolio, we want to be very intentional and very thoughtful about how can we create a portfolio that 1 + 1 = 3, right? So how can we create like this synergy within the portfolio to where that also becomes a part of the value add?
Yeah. What's break that down for me? 1 + 1 = 3. What is this motto?
Right. So when you think about sports, most of the time, especially recently, most of sports investment is investing in teams. That's kind of what a lot of the headlines and a lot of the news cycle is around, is investing in teams.
Yeah.
But we know that there's a whole value chain in sports of, some sexy businesses, some boring businesses, but they all exist along this value chain, right? So whether it's sports technology company, whether it's a sports wearable company, it could be this sports medicine clinic, it could be, some, fintech platform that services athletes in a different way. Like these are all kind of really critical pieces of the sports ecosystem. And as we put together our portfolio, we want to be very mindful of, how can we pair this wearable technology with this sports medicine clinic, and how can we create a synergy there that helps both of these companies? It's kind of this rising tide effect.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And you guys are targeting, this isn't, this isn't like, let's invest in like pre-seed seed stage. You're looking for more of the growth stage, cash flowing, profitable sports businesses. So just to piggyback off your last sort of point, what are those, Marques? What are we looking at here? What are you interested in placing your dollar towards these days?
Yeah, so it's really across the board. It could be, like I mentioned before, it could be a wearable technology company that has seen some traction and some success. It could be a retail brand that services sports. It could be sports medicine clinics. It could be NIL marketplace. The thing with sports that's really unique is that there are a lot of kind of subsets within the sports industry, so we don't want to, we've kind of gotten a lot of questions around like, all right, what is your thesis and can you nail down your thesis? And it's really, in being in sports, you realize that the value chain really is pretty robust. So it could be, it's going to be across the board for us. Eventually we could get into like emerging teams, sports teams and leagues, whatever we feel like we can bring into the ecosystem and truly create an ecosystem that creates value for everyone. It's going to be on the table.
Can I say something real quick? I'm glad you mentioned that. Like when someone asks, well, what's your thesis? Like, what do you do? I just like, it's looking for the best opportunity at the best time at the best price. I think like saying like, yeah, we only invest in wearable tech, under the, Northern hemisphere, like to box yourself in as an investor, I think is like stupid. And so the thesis question is kind of funny to me.
Yeah, I have my thoughts, but
this is a great place to dump them out, man.
No, there's some stuff that doesn't look good on a deck. There are investors that, especially in this space, and especially with the athlete-led company, like there's people create hurdles at times, right? And the reality is, you hit the nail on the head. Like if an investor is going to invest in your fund, they're not investing because they like you. They're not investing because they're not investing for any other reason than, if I give you my money, are you going to be a good steward of my money? And are you going to return it back more than what I gave you? It's a very, very simple business that gets more and more complex as people try to create their unique differentiators. But it's a very simple business. Take the money in, have a plan for how you want to invest it, how you want to grow it, and return it to the investors. And you do that well enough, they'll give you another opportunity to do it.
Do you also think people are investing in your fund because of you? I mean, they believe in you. They've seen the track record you've done. You have since playing. Or is it, or you think for your group of LPs, it's like, okay, I like the direction this is going in. I like the team. Obviously priority 1, 2, and 3 is to get my money back in multiples. Sure. But I don't think you're selling them just on your deck. I think it's sort of like your track record and your vision. Well, what would you say for that?
Well, I would agree. And I don't think that's any different than any other fund manager.
Yeah.
Like, I think what it boils down to is my performance and my track record looks a little bit different. It's not going to be in my track record. I guess is more about execution within the sports industry than it is, a number on a piece of paper that says I performed in this fund well.
Yeah.
And I think that's again, that's kind of part of our thesis that's built in is we're not lifelong investors. Like, we are operators who have been in sports, who have made noise in sports and know how to create value in sports. And I think that resonates with folks.
Yeah, let's get into this fund structure because I like this stuff. So the investors so limited partners are investing in your fund. All right, they have the appreciation and sort of the carry, however you want to categorize that. But this is where it's really interesting and not something that we've talked too much on Athletes and Assets is the dividends, the dividend sharing. So basically you have a piece of Campion Venture Partners where you invest in a company and you have different resources you could provide to your portfolio companies for a management expense or fee. So if how would you give us an example? Like, this is an interesting way of doing things. What are we talked about value add, but can you talk about this operational experience? Like, where are you really helping these companies and why in the world are they paying you guys?
So you take a company, I'll give you an example. So you take a company that has done really well. There's a retail brand, right? So take a retail brand that's done really well in their niche.
Can you,
right?
Do you have any real examples or?
Yeah, I'll give you a case study without giving you the name of the company.
Okay.
Right. So there's a retail brand that we're looking at that has done really well in one sport. They have a product that has they have patented technology that they've created, and this product has done really well in this sport. And what they're now looking to do is figure out, how do I expand my market into other sports? Right. So rather than go out and hire a CEO or COO that they're going to end up paying a significant amount to come into a company and take them from point A to point B, what we can offer is we'll come in probably at a significant discount to what that C-suite person is gonna cost you, and a lot less of the HR headaches and the headhunter headaches. And what we can do is we can help you not only figure out that product market demand, in another sport. We can introduce you to strategic partners along the way. We'll probably have some athletes within our LP base that could be a really great fit from a brand marketing standpoint, from a partnership and advisory standpoint. So that's one example where a company when they're in a growth stage, they're going out and raising capital to continue to grow. Part of that growth is going to be bringing in headcount.
Yeah.
So the money is going out the door anyways. What we're doing is giving you another avenue to spend that money more efficiently with more impact.
You're saving them money, but at the same time, you're actually making money with your investors because of the replacement of hiring a potential C-suite or multiple roles that you could do anyways.
110%. And the company sees the growth because they're able to enter these new markets. We kind of grease the skids as they're coming into the new markets and kind of accelerate their success. So the company is growing, which means the investment that we make from our LP base, that investment is growing. And the revenue that we're able to extract from those companies and those management fees, when we hit a profitability number within our internal management operations, we kick that back to our LPs as a dividend.
Yeah. It sounds great on paper. I want to see this to the test though. So would under this fund structure, Would you consider investing in a sports team? I know you do other stuff, but would you consider investing in a sports team as an example?
I would say an emerging sports team or league would be more within our wheelhouse.
So if you invested in a pickleball team and they were doing really well, but they needed to scale their marketing efforts. If I was under your portfolio, if I was a Portco company and I emailed you, I bothered, hey, Marques, like, help us out, man. You guys, this is where you would step in and sort of, put your spin on it and help the team.
Yeah, we would definitely evaluate the opportunity. Again, is it a company where if we bring it into our ecosystem, does it benefit from the other companies in our portfolio, and does it benefit the other portfolio companies? Right. So that's kind of number one.
Interesting.
If we check those boxes and it's truly a fit within the portfolio, that now we kind of figure out the investment terms, because so there's two types of investment. So I just kind of talked you through the value add investment, right? Which is we come in, we kind of help and support the management team. The other piece is, every company is not going to need, super high level management services. So there are going to be just really good financial investments that what we would do in those situations is we would try to structure the terms in a way that creates the same types of management fee structure that we can kick back to our LPs. But now the kicker becomes we're investing capital into the company. We might take a little bit less equity to create a cash dividend, which allows the founder to maintain their equity, which is going to grow over time. But it also allows us to, again, asset accumulation because we're making the capital investment, but we're also creating that cash dividend again, where we can kick back to our LPs. So we're not, the value added model is really important for us, but it's not the only way that we can create the same type of alignment and synergies.
Okay. Absolutely. And I feel like your LP base, this kind of enables a diversified LP base in the East Coast, in different parts of the country where they don't sort of have like the venture mindset that maybe, you'd go to Silicon Valley and a lot of these endowments or places would be able to wait for 10 years. People want their money now, man, like you're dealing with, people want faster returns. And so I think 100%. that frees you up to be versatile. And
part of it for us too is like, we know we've all been around the investment world for a long time. We know the typical models that exist, and we know that what we've created is different. And are we looking to come in and displace all of the old models? No. What we're looking to do is come in and create another platform, a different platform that, if this is appealing to you as an LP, if sports as an investment vehicle is appealing, if the ability to access a semi-liquid investment is appealing to you, then we're a platform that could make a lot of sense for you.
Okay. Marques, tailor this. Talk to the founders of the world, like me, or talk to actually, I'm not in this category because the more growth stage, cash flowing founders out there. Why you guys? Versus another firm, or what's the sell here? You mention it, but how would you sell yourself to founders out there who are maybe looking for something like this?
I would lead with alignment. Like that's a word that we kind of hold close to us, because it's all about alignment and it's about access, right? So as a founder, you're looking to grow a company, you're looking to grow your baby, right? That you've kind of, it started as an idea concept, you've got your funding, you've kind of gone through all of the hurdles to get to the place where you're on the precipice of major growth, right? We're coming in really aligned with the growth of your company, because again, our LPs don't see that asset accumulation unless your company goes from point A to point B relatively quickly. So the thought of working with us in that management, that value added model is, we're not coming in the door looking to build our resume as the next best COO or the next best CEO to leapfrog and kind of jump into another opportunity.
Yeah.
We're aligned for the long haul. Like any value that we bring to the table, any networking, any relationships, biz dev, partnerships, we're bringing those to the table with the long game in mind, because ultimately we're serving our LP base with the services that we provide. So, our game is really about connecting with the right founders, with the right companies that align with our vision. We align with their vision. And, ultimately we can create an ecosystem of success that, again, everyone's win is aligned.
Yeah. Alignment. I think that's maybe the moral of that's like the higher, the theme of your pitch is alignment. So to be aligned with you, if I were to pitch you my company, what should if I were to go into the CVP office, pitch you my company, what should I not have in the pitch deck? What can we leave out?
That's a great question. That's a great.
You
great
get these
question.
all the time, right? You probably have.
Okay.
Well, there's two sides of the coin. I think some of the best investments, like investors really chase, and you gotta find them, but also you probably have a lot of inbound. So on the inbound piece, what like miss me with that. Insert blank in the pitch deck.
Oh man, I can speak from a personal level, like the brand ambassadorship, man. Yeah, I'm good on the brand ambassadorship at this point.
We want you to be the face of the brand.
Yeah. And it's funny because that like as an athlete, that's 90% of the pitches. It's like. And they're doing you a favor, allowing you to come in to be the brand ambassador.
I'm giving you the opportunity to be the face of this company. Like, do you want this opportunity or not? And it's like some random hairspray apparel. Like,
I've got a drawer full of lottery tickets, man. Chips and advisory roles that, I think. Honestly, if you're just looking for, if you're looking for the athlete appeal, if you're looking for visibility, if all you're looking for is, the fame and fortune angle, the fame angle, then we're not the company for you. Because we're not the vanity investors. We are the roll your sleeves up, and really come in and help support the growth of your company investors.
Do you find it tough sometimes to get past that? Like, do you find it tough sometimes to tell people and founders, look, I'm not just, an Instagram follow. Like, we do this other stuff. Check us out.
Yeah, no, that's been a challenge, and it goes beyond investing. It's been a challenge just as an entrepreneur, as a business person in general. I think I said this earlier in the conversation. What I did for a living and the level that I did it at, it casts a pretty broad shadow. Yeah. And there are some people that all they want to do is kind of live within that shadow. And it did take a while to get comfortable enough in my own skin and comfortable enough in my own experience to say, all right, if that's all you want from me, you can go find somebody else, because I bring a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
And, I think, for us as a company, as CVP, that's kind of what we do. That's kind of the way we think. And we want to work with folks that see the value for what it is, and, ultimately respect and appreciate the fact that, again, it's all about alignment. We're not, as you grow, we grow, our LPs grow, and everybody wins.
Yeah. Fill in the blank here. If you're building blank, please reach out to me.
If you're building blank, please reach out to me.
If you're building in this space, or you're doing X, Y, or Z, please reach out to Marques Colston, Campion Venture Partners, and don't tell anybody. And we got to talk. Is there anything?
Yeah. I would say if you are building. Man, these are good questions, dude.
Telling you,
If you
we got to see what's really under the hood here. You know what I mean?
No, if you're building a company that, man, if you're building a company that is that has the ability to disrupt the norm in sports, then yes, we would love to work with you, because that's really at the core of what we're doing. Like our model is disruptive, right? So if you're building a company that's disruptive in sports and has an incredible opportunity in front of it, like let's talk.
Speaking of that, so what do you think about the golf league, the TGL? What's your thoughts there? The entire Rory investment, the golf league, in sort of indoor, sort of arcade sort of type experience, new sort of format of golf.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know a ton about the specifics of that.
Okay.
I will say that anything that expands the golf audience outside of the traditional following is going to be a great thing for golf.
Okay.
I think, if you have the ability to gamify the experience similar to a Topgolf, you're going to be able to attract an entirely new audience that, again, it's all about growth at this point. It's about growing the game of golf. It's about growing, sports as a more accessible platform for more people to enjoy.
Thoughts on overtime? You think overtime is here for the long term?
I think so. I think so. Especially in this NIL world, I think that their positioning has only gotten stronger, and I'm kind of waiting to see. Basketball is like that one sport where it's tailor made for overtime.
They slashed G League Ignite. They're like, you know what? Like this is not it. You know what I mean? But
it's tough, man. It's tough. And it's getting more and more tough to figure out the athlete development model, because there's so much access to like business opportunities now.
Yeah.
It's not just about developing the athlete anymore. It's about developing the brand. It's about developing, the media training. It's developing the professional athlete now, as opposed to, can you develop a high school athlete or youth athlete into a college player, into a pro player? It's like you're coming out of high school trying to get ready for the pros right now. So I'll be anxious to see what they can do with other sports, but I think that model as a whole is here to stay.
All right. From an investing perspective, last one. Start, bench, cut. Women's soccer, pickleball, the TGL.
Cool. Start, bench, cut.
From an investing perspective, not your personal. We can leave your personal views out of it, so you don't get roasted. Although that'd be better for us and for engagement. But
I think in the order you named it, I think I start women's soccer. Okay. You just see the wave of women's sports is man, it's coming. It's here, but there's so much more meat on the bones, and like just seeing what soccer's been able to do over the years. For a while, it was just like every 4 years when the World Cup comes around or the Olympics comes around. Now it's becoming a year round excitement.
Yeah.
So I start women's soccer. I bench pickleball. I think part of that's because I probably would suck at it. I got no agility left. And unfortunately, I got to cut TGL.
Damn, Tiger and I won't tell. Tiger and Rory. I'm sorry. That's tough. But hey, that's no easy answer there. But Marques, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been another great episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack. We just had a great conversation with Marques Colston, co-founder of Campion Venture Partners, looking to invest in disruptive, cash flowing, disruptive keyword on disruptive sports tech companies or sports adjacent. Marques, thanks so much for joining us, man. And, best of luck with the fund and the up and coming portfolio.
I appreciate you having me, man. And hopefully we can do this again soon.
Man, absolutely. We're going to we should give a year from now when you have like 30 unicorns and you're like sitting on a throne, we want to have that discussion as well. So we appreciate it.
Hey, where are they now? I'm all for it.